Hey, good morning, thinker. Hope you're well this morning. Let's get rid of this starting soon thing. It's kind of something I put together really quickly just before the stream. It's really strange getting back to the digital realm Monday morning, April 17th. I hope you're doing well this morning, thinker. So yesterday's stream was quite a ramble. I went over a lot of things that I think maybe a lot of people aren't really, want to hear about, I guess. It seemed like to me. As far as all of the references and everything, collecting references, it's so important for us as artists, so I went through all that. But today, hey, good morning, Finish. Today we're going to do some drawing. I'm going to be focusing on the drawing today. The process is going to be like this, where I'm going to be doing a few portraits in a row, and you want to get a good drawing kind of laid in first. And then after that, we're going to use the drawing as an overlay and then kind of paint under it. And the main thing that I want to accomplish for myself, and hopefully for you guys as well, is to use the influences that we have, on the left-hand side over here. Use the influences of other artists and try to interpret, this photo at the right as well as we can into something a little bit more, kind of like Anne Gale, or I've already forgotten his name, how they've done something different. So what was it, Friday? No, Sunday. Yesterday? No. I can't remember what day. Saturday. It's been kind of a crazy week with me with some back trouble. I did this drawing. This was like my art for one day. It was like a 45-minute drawing. I was playing around with this. Actually, it was like several layers that I worked up. So this was the first layer. You can see, all kinds of drawing problems in that. I changed the opacity to it so it was way back, and then I did the second drawing over it, fixed a lot of things. Was going to do a third drawing on top of this, and kind of work into the details that I had, but I said, you know what, I should probably check to see where I'm at, to see if I'm anywhere close to the portrait on the right-hand side. And here's what I did. So I brought it in, same size. As you can see, let me turn this opacity down. I'm way off on the head size. The neck size, the size of everything is a lot smaller. And as I was drawing this, I was like, man, her neck seems just tremendously long here. What's going on? I had no idea. So I really realized that, my ability to judge, an image on the right to what's in the center here is not as good as it could be. So I'm going to use a helper. This is a 50-50 grid that I set up. Basically, you just turn, you bisect the image two ways, horizontally and vertically. Is it me or does that look crooked? This vertical one does not look right. Let me see, draw another vertical one. No, that's right. Anyway. And I'm going to use that. I'm not going to do like a 2x2 grid or a 1x1 grid, but I'm going to challenge myself to do better on this one. So I'm not even going to look at my previous drawing. Not going to look at that either. All I'm going to go off of is the reference, and this is the challenge that I want, to see how close I can get. Now that's to say that once you do a drawing, especially from an image digitally, don't pigeonhole yourself into this kind of idea where you have to get it right the first time, right? and that you can't like check your drawing or anything. This kind of idea. I fell into that trap so much when before, where I would do a drawing or a painting or something, and I said, "Oh, I'm a terrible artist unless I can do it from the image without checking my drawing with an overlay." Don't get into that. This is how we learn. We get this amazing objective feedback from digital software like this. And we learn where we're off on things, where we're on, what's good, what's bad, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just setting up the head shape right now. I actually woke up at 2 a.m. this morning, 1:45 I woke up. Well, I was awake before then. Couldn't get back to sleep. I'm sure you guys know what that's like. My brain was going like 20 miles an hour, right? 20,000 miles an hour. And one of the things that I was thinking of was all the different ways to draw. And I've been wanting to do a video on this. I got like a million videos in my head that I want to do. There's so many different ways to draw. There's so many different ways to build an image up. And I remember, actually, here's the question. Thinker and Finish, you guys are here. How many different ways do you think there is to draw? Or did you even know that there's multiple ways to work up an image from life or from photo into a drawing or painting? And one thing I'm noticing is that this should be on the right side, because my hand's on the right. I keep covering it up. So that's a question for you guys. Is that something you're aware of? Do you care? And no is a good answer here. You could say, oh yeah, there's probably a million ways to draw Chris, but I don't really give a shit. So the way that I'm using right now, well, every method is different, right? And every method is one of those things where you use your own. Oh, you're not sure what I'm referring to. So how many ways do you think there is to work up this image in a drawing? Do you know that before I said that, do you think there's only one way to, did you think there's only one way to draw? Or did you think there's a multitude? And do you really care if there are a ton of ways to draw? Is it a big deal? Do you even care to know about it? Like, just give me one way. See, I keep influencing your answers, sorry. I need to just shut up sometimes. To each his own method, as long as the final product looks good. Yeah, I can see what you mean there, and I agree with that. We all have our own methods, right? No, we actually don't. I don't know why I said that. No, we everyone, most of the time, doesn't have a method for drawing. Most of the time when we draw, I'm looking at horizontals here, trying to get those right, because I think I'm way off, and I am. All these horizontals are different. Many artists, I'm not going to say everyone. I can't really lump everyone into one big bucket, right? Many artists will just kind of start out and they just start doing something, and they work at it, and they get something that they like, right? It's a drawing, and then they say, oh, it's my style, right? That's one way of going about it. I'm not saying that that's bad. But many artists don't have any kind of method to work through. No rhyme or reason. They just get to work drawing and hopefully get to the end. You can turn the image upside down, which pushes you to draw shapes. Yeah, that's true. You can do that. That is one part of kind of what I'm talking about here. But if you don't have a method of drawing, if you don't have something that you can follow, some kind of tangible way of doing things, it's kind of like going on a journey far away without a map. You're like, I think it's in this kind of direction. Think about you're on a plane and the pilot's like, yeah, I know, we're in Seattle. New York is, east of here. Let's just head east. We'll figure it out. And for artists, I mean, that's not a big deal, right? Because you will figure it out. Eventually, you put enough time into it, you're going to figure out anything. But if you have a method, a methodology that works with you and your brain, because everybody's brain is different, everybody's ideas are different, If you have a methodology, you could get there a lot faster. There's a Loomis method of drawing the head. Yeah, totally. Definitely. The Loomis method is very, a way to simplify the head to just kind of get that form, and body, yeah. So I take it, thinker, that you already knew that there's a bunch of different methods to draw. So one method what I'm using right now is kind of it's a bit of an atelier approach, with a little bit of studio incominati mixed into it. You're like, what the hell is that? It sounds like a secret society. It is. No, I'm kidding. It's actually a school created by Nelson Shanks, Studio Incominati. I didn't go to classes or anything like that to that school, but you watch enough videos that they put on, and you kind of get the idea of what they're doing in a lot of ways. It's based in straight lines, but not tremendously straight lines. Like if I'm making a straight line here, just super straight. What they do is they use that kind of atelier approach, and they harden out everything, but with curves, right? So everything I'm doing here is I'll figure out, a point from each end of the chin, right? And then I'll do this kind of curve thing. So we're not doing complete straight lines, and we'll begin building it up this way. And you go through the form everywhere. So this part of the neck, this kind of strange, look at this. I mean, this is kind of, what's going on there? There's a crease in the skin of the neck, but then there's this kind of point where it folds over. Looks kind of odd, right? Like if I painted that, I would want to decrease the size of that chunk there, so it doesn't look weird in a drawing. In a photo, you're like, oh, okay, well I know it doesn't look like something I would think would look that way, but people will accept it right away. But here, I'm going to kind of shorten that off a bit. But as far as the drawing, like this trapezoid right here that you can see from her neck, I'm going to shoot the shoulder angle, way off. Maybe this light that's hitting here. All in these kind of angles. I enjoy this way of working because you have to keep it simple. there's so many different ways to draw. And why is this important? Why am I talking about it? Well, I want to create a video on it, and I want to see, you know, how it resonates with you guys. You guys are my test audience. Hey, good morning, Ashton. You know, because if I talk about anything in here in this live stream and you're like, I really don't care, please tell me. Because I don't want to make a video, spend all that time making a video about something that, you know, you guys don't care about. If you guys care about it, then I know, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of other artists care about it. So help me out here. Let me know if I'm boring. Let me know if I'm not doing anything that you care about. Oh, here you go. Ashton, I got a question for you. Listen up. How many ways to draw are there? Let's say any image, not just a head, not just a portrait, not just a figure. How many ways could I arrive at a representational image by drawing? The fact that I'm asking the question could probably lead to the answer. See, like, you know, I'm looking up here at the hairline, right? This hairline, hopefully you can see my cursor. Let me go to this. So this hairline, it's just about horizontal. So what I'm gonna do is see how far, or at least guess how far that horizontal is from the top of the canvas. And then it's gonna go right here. But I'm not keeping it just in place in that one area. No, I'm gonna, you know, really go through that area, draw a much longer line than I need. Many, I assume, because we all start drawing things differently. How many, I guess the question should be, how many academic methods of drawing are there? Because you got, all three of you went to the same thing. Thinker probably got there as well, where you were like, well, you know, it depends on the person, right? Which is wonderful. I'm glad you guys think that, because it does. Part of it is that. How many taught methods out there have been created since, you know, art began? Well, I guess the quick answer I'll just say is there's a whole ton of them out there. And the next question would be, would you be interested in knowing more than one way to draw? Or do you even care? Does it even matter to you to know more than one way? All right, a few things here I want to talk about while you think about that question. Is the oh so important thing with the head is these horizontals. This is way too high. It should be down here, I believe. So if we look at the horizontal of the brow, and then we look at the horizontal of the eye line, which will be lower, probably about right here, is my guess. And I'm guessing right now, that's part of drawing. I'm gonna be honest, I don't care. I hate drawing every day in my drawing class. Okay, well you just hate drawing. But that's a good answer. Any answer is good. These horizontals are really important. You guys may know this. Maybe other people that are watching this don't know this. Whatever line horizontally the brow will make, the nose will repeat that, the mouth will repeat that, the chin will repeat that, the eyes will repeat it. the position of the cheeks, the cheekbones, the bones of the cheeks. Normally the ears kind of go wonky sometimes. Many people have very different ears on each side. So you have to observe that. But getting the, generally speaking, getting those horizontals in are really important. And making sure they all are on the same line, okay? Yeah, you could argue that there's perspective, especially in a 3/4 view head, but you're barely going to see it. Maybe a slight, if I drew a box here, and let's say this is a 3/4 view head, right? 1 point perspective. I don't even have 2 point perspective. Let's do 2 point. That one goes back that way, and that like that. So here's your box of the head, right? Now this line, those lines will eventually converge. So, and this is extreme perspective, so this is like a wide angle lens kind of thing. So you would have kind of a change, a small change in brow, nose, mouth, chin, as far as those lines. Like they would eventually go way off into space and eventually meet. But it's so minimal. Don't worry too much about it. Last semester I spent every day drawing figures. It was challenging and I wanted to draw a still life so bad just to take a break from it. Wait, do you even like figurative drawing at all? Because I know I'm not that entertaining. Are you just here to hear my voice and not watch me draw? Maybe I am that entertaining. If I am, I had no idea. And it's totally okay. You're like, yeah, you're right. Why am I here? Okay, bye. Okay. The hardest part moving into here, and I'm working up to it. I'm actually procrastinating. This whole part here scares me. It's always the difficult part. Getting all of that in, all those shapes in and getting them right, with the eyes and that kind of stuff. So we're going to work into it. First, I'm going to look at 2 points of the head, which are... Let me zoom in so you guys can see this. So you look at where this corner is. Always look for the corners. And if you know the shape of the head, you have the front plane of the forehead and then a turn that happens here and here. And it usually happens right at the top right corner of the eyebrow here. You can see it perfectly with how this light kind of changes, but on the left side, it's almost hidden. I can barely see it. So this is the next thing. And whenever you're scared of what you're doing, like you don't know what to do next, find what you can actually see, what's easy to see. So there's the one corner I was telling you about. And then the other one I would guess is going to be right about here. Okay, and this is the forehead. And that actually has 3 planes to it. Oops, probably could flatten that up a little bit better. Maybe that line needs to go over. Yeah, so this big plane right here, let me erase that center line. I usually don't like doing the center line, but it's helpful. I like watching people do art sometimes more than doing it myself, because although it's fun, it still stresses me out. Okay, no, that's cool. I'm glad you're here, regardless. So you got these 2 points, you got the 3 planes, and you can kind of see it on the drawing, or on the image that we're working with. Like the slight change in value. Because this is front, it goes this way. Oh, I went to that repeatable brush thing. Oh, it's so fun. What was it called? This guy. I hit Q, the multi-brush tool. You got this flat front plane and then a side plane that goes off to the side, and a side plane there, and then a big turn to the side of the head. right there. So I make sure I get those. And then what's next? Trying to remember my Marco Bucci course that I took. That was oh so good. Let's do the top triangle with the eyes. So there's this little triangle here that works up into the forehead. It actually stops there, kind of tilts in slightly. How important do you think the study of anatomy is in figurative drawing? Oh, you started with skeletons to learn anatomy? Well, I guess, you build up from the skeleton. How important is anatomy with figurative? That's a hard question, honestly. Would I be able to draw better if I knew anatomy better? It's kind of really what you're asking, right? Do I need to study anatomy? As I'm looking at this, I'm way off. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by how bad my drawing is right now. You see the tear duct? Tear duct is right against the line. Talking too much. I'm thinking about the anatomy question, though. That tear duct is going to be right here. Maybe a little bit lower. Let me see, this is half. So I would say it's about a quarter. Yeah, right there, I would say. So right away, that puts my eye line here. Does it change my ears at all? Somewhat. I would say a general understanding of anatomy is important, but not necessarily a detailed understanding of each and every muscle. But yeah, I guess the more the question, though, finish, and I agree with you there. Surface anatomy is all you care about. I think... if I were to rank it in importance to drawing the figure, or to drawing in general, I would say number 1 is perspective. Wow, not even going to write that out. Number 1 is perspective, and then through that, getting an understanding of form. And wrapped in with that, getting an understanding of form is anatomy. Let's do this. I'm going to remove my drawing for a moment. I want to do an overlay just to illustrate a point there. And I'm going to stand up real quick. Hey, El Morris, welcome. That's a good question, El Morris. I'll get to that in a moment. We were talking about different ways of drawing. Okay, so it's a really good question, thinker, about, how much of anatomy do you need to know? And it's all based on understanding. And why understanding? Part of drawing is understanding the form, and I'll stick with something really simple. So let's talk about the forehead here. So if you think of the Loomis head, you know, you have this circle that he builds, right? And then you have it chopped off on either side with these ellipses, okay? So it's kind of like that. Those really make these points here on either side of the forehead. Then you have the forehead shape itself, which is broken up into 3 parts. This is front facing. This goes a little bit to the side. This goes a little bit to the side there. And then all of a sudden we go into a huge angle change for the side of the head. If anatomy helps you get to that, that's where it's helpful. So if you look at this portrait, let me remove this line. If you look at this portrait here, actually I like that opacity change, and you can't understand what's going on within the forehead by looking at this photo, that's where anatomy will come in and help you. For example, you can't understand, or you have difficulty understanding how the neck shape is, how it makes, you know, an ellipse in space, right? Which it would be an ellipse with a much different degree on this one here. Then anatomy really helps you on that. You can start to see things when you study anatomy a little bit better as well. For example, this really beautiful line here of the neck, that line, just absolutely gorgeous, right? Oops. I drew on the photo. I hate doing that. That is the... Oh, I'm going to forget it now. Oh, sternocleidomastoideus muscle. That's what it's called. It goes from the sternum to a little kind of notch right behind the ear. And it's a really beautiful muscle because if you looked at the neck front on, the neck is going to be this, you know, cylinder. And then basically the head sits on top of it. Oh my God, was that a chin, Chris? Here's the chin of the head. And this sternocleidomastoideus kind of wraps around and connects right at the top of the sternum right here. Kind of hugs that neck, and that's where you get this nice little pit in the center of the neck where it's those two muscles kind of coming together. But because I know that, I know what this tendon's doing. I know that it's wrapping around, it's creating an indentation there, and I know that form better. I know where the esophagus is. I know the esophagus wraps here. We got a little bump as it goes into that sternocleido, and then it goes back where I can't see it, right? I know that this right here is the acromion process, or maybe it's this bump. I think it's one of those two bumps. And the reason why I know that is because the clavicle goes from the top of the sternum, meets into the shoulder girdle, which is actually kind of wrapping around this way, and you got your shoulder blade back there, which has, it looks like the spine of the shoulder blades right there. I'm probably way off on some of that, but it helps me understand what's going on there, so I can go, oh, form. You know, I know that this shoulder wraps around this way, but it also wraps up top this way, you know. How this is a trapezius muscle that goes behind the neck. You can see that lump there, and it creates this nice divot, comes back forward over the clavicle, and then that's under the clavicle. You know, for a very thin individual like she is, you see all these really big divots, right? The other sternocleidomastoideus muscle is going back this way, wrapping around the neck. It helps me with the form, helps me really understand what's going on there. That's the only reason to study anatomy, to help you get that understanding. So any point in time you look at a nose, for example, and this is always confusing for me. Like, what is the top and what is the bottom of the nose, right? Let me zoom in on that. So if I'm looking at this nose, and a lot of times it's like the shadows are just, I can't understand it. And it kind of looks like, the bottom of the nose, if I shape the bottom of the nose as one simple shape, it would be, that's all the bottom, right? Yeah, somewhat. I think this is the top, and this is kind of like the curve downwards. Then, when you take some courses, like there's a Marco Bucci course on how to do the head, and he breaks the head down into, jeez, I keep doing that. I keep marking on the image. I don't remember to change layers, basically. When I took that course, he was pointing out things that I never saw before, like this really cool triangle that exists on everybody's bodies, but is a little bit different. And when you know that, you can see that on some heads, the triangle's really wide or really thin. And it just brings in understanding. The one thing that I didn't know is, you have the front of the nose here, which gets thinner in the center. It has usually a lump right here because that's where the bone ends and the cartilage begins, and then widens out again into the ball of the nose. But there's this really cool shelf. And for this individual, for her, it doesn't go out that far. But a lot of the nose travels way out, away from the nose itself. Like that's part of the nose. It kind of like curves in. This is something I didn't realize. And, getting that understanding is important. And that's the importance of anatomy, really. I would, if I had to do everything over again, like I started from zero, I would only look at anatomy when I'm looking at a photograph or I'm looking at the figure and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on there. If you find yourself saying that, that's a good indication that anatomy can help you out. Yeah. Don't just study anatomy to study anatomy. I really don't like figures, but I'm going to study anatomy because everybody says I should, right? It's going to get you nowhere. Okay. El Morris's question. Hello, Chris. I never do drawing. I go straight to color when doing portraits digital. Is that good or bad, or it's just personal preferences? We were just talking about earlier about all the academic methods for, these are methods that are taught by, schools and ateliers. You go to the Jeff Watts Academy, right? He's going to teach you a certain way. It's going to be the Riley method of drawing. All of this kind of stuff. I've found, and this is going to be part of your question, I've found that there's just a ton of different ways to draw. There's so many of them out there. And all of them work. All of them are good. None of them are bad. And the reason why, and everyone here in the call just hit on it right away, is because we all have different brains. And I could explain something to you one way and it just doesn't click. But then another person comes in, or maybe I change up my language a little bit, and then after that it just clicks. You're like, oh wow, why didn't you say it that way before? Now I really understand it. That happens all the time. And it's the same thing as with drawing, with any method of art, painting or whatever. This is going to be way off on the drawing. You know, I'm pretty good at making myself look like a fool on live stream, so hopefully it makes you guys feel better about yourselves. Like, oh, okay. Chris sucks at drawing, but he can do some good paintings. He can come out with some good paintings. And yeah, you can suck at drawing and still do some darn good paintings. By the way. So, El Morris, if that way works for you, go for it. If you enjoy it, if it works with your brain, if you're happy, you're honestly happy with the quality of your work, then go for it. And when I say honestly happy, I'm talking like you really sit down and go, is this a good drawing? Is this a good painting? Compared to the best out there, you know, look at ArtStation, compare your art to them. Be objective with it. Don't say, yeah, I love my drawing, I think it's awesome. And then, you know, someone else out there is like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You know, it's really terrible. There's a tendency for all of us to have this kind of blinders on, like we don't want to recognize our faults or problems sometimes. Wow, this head needs to go a lot farther out, I believe. The ear top. Wow, yeah, I'm way off. Top of the ear, side of the ear. So if you look at your drawings and you're like, yeah, starting with color and then working it, like what you're doing there is more like a sculptor's technique. You know, you'll take like a really big broad brush and maybe you'll work on the form, like this neck down here. Wow, that's really fuzzy. I didn't think that this brush was that fuzzy. So you maybe a big broad brush and you're like just blocking in just big chunks of things, right? All of that, you know, these shadow shapes within there. And then later on, maybe you start carving into it a bit. You know, you start getting a little bit smaller with your brush and pulling out things and then working it up that way. It's totally fine, you know? That's more like a sculptor's technique where they have a big, huge piece of clay, right? And they're subtracting from it. Or not clay, but more like, you know, Michelangelo hammering at David, his painting of David. Not David. David's the artist. Hammering at his sculpture of David. Wow, I'm all over the place. You know, it was one big block of marble. And then he started pulling away what wasn't working. Kind of like we do on ourselves all the time, right? That's how we get better. We're like, I can improve if I just put the soda down. I could lose a lot of weight if I would just stop eating all those snacks. Yeah. I know how you guys feel. I'm there too. Or that's exactly how I feel. I eat way too much snacks. But what you really need is that honest feedback, El Morris. Yeah, but it saves a ton of time for me because it fills canvas with tone and color, and it helps to understand what's going on exactly how you showed right now. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, every method is going to have its positive and negatives. Okay, but the important thing, the challenge here for you, and sorry, I like to challenge artists because I want you to be the best version of yourself, okay? Because I challenge myself, and I want you guys to challenge me as well. The best thing that you can do is try and give yourself as honest feedback as possible. Or, you know, you could do, like I'm going to be doing here in a moment, is getting really objective feedback on your accuracy. If accuracy is important, you may be like, no, I don't care that I'm not doing an accurate drawing, right? Or you can, you know what you can do? You can use my contact page on my website, El Morris. chrisbevan.com. It's in the link of the description. And shoot me some of your work or share on Instagram. And I'll give you, I'll look at your work and I'll let you know if I think that your drawing is well done. Just let me know what you're trying to go for, If you don't care about accuracy and representation, then don't do what I'm saying. You're going for abstraction on that point. And it's like, okay, no worries, But if you care about accuracy, the best thing you can do is compare with the subject that you're working with. And you're like, oh, I work on this method, but my accuracy, I love this method, but I'm not as accurate as I would like to be. And then you maybe start drawing a bit out linearly first, and then get to the block in as quick as possible. See if that improves your accuracy. You see what I'm doing there? I'm not telling you not to do your method. What I'm doing is trying to get you to look to improve how you're doing things. What's that next step, El Morris? What's the next step? What's the next best version of you, right? Because it's always there. What's the next step? This is the infinite game, is art. There are no masters. There's people just, a bit further down the journey than you are and I am. I've had teachers teach it that way, to just build value, not to think about it like lines, because when we would try to draw realism, the outline of the body would still be shown. Most of us would have to go back with an eraser to get rid of the harsh outlines. A lot of teachers teach that as well too, because it's easy to get, it's really helpful for students and myself to stop focusing on the darn details. Worrying about this stupid eye when the shape of the head is completely wrong, right? That kind of thing. I focus on the details way too much as well. You're like, where's that chin at? Is that chin in the right place? Many teachers know that the important thing is the start, the beginning. Get that on. It doesn't matter the details. The details are kind of come from that. And so the blocky method really kind of helps you get away from that. The problem with it is it also gives up some accuracy. So when you're talking about figure, your accuracy needs to come back around at some point, especially portraiture, because what's interesting about portraiture, if you're trying to get a likeness, maybe you're doing a commission, and someone says, "Hey, I want you to paint my daughter." Like, this is someone's daughter here, right? Maybe someone's wife, someone's sister. Hey, I love my sister. I want you to draw her. They want it to look like her, right? They don't want it to look like someone else. And the difference between a likeness and no likeness is millimeters. Really tiny differences there. So that accuracy is important for a lot of aspects. But if you can do the block-in method and you can get that accuracy, no problem, good job. Heck yeah, don't change, Unless you want to learn a new method or something like that, keep going. Hell yeah. It's more about, are you achieving what you want to achieve? And are you progressing more than you have to have this particular method? Like, if I do that video on all the different drawing methods, the overarching idea is going to be find what works for you, but be honest in the quality of your work. Don't lie to yourself. If it's bad, it's bad. And then be happy that you can see that so you can get better. That's the most important thing, is to constantly look for those mistakes and then learn from them. Just made a video on that recently. I love this this Terminator line right here. That shadow shape. All right, I'm gonna see how off I am with all this drawing. Chris, I can show right now. I need feedback, especially on accuracy. Yeah, true. The accuracy be way off, or can be way off. Yeah. Did you start with an emotion you were looking to portray with this portrait? No. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that, Thinker. I did not. This is going to be just purely technical, these portraits. Not working up a composition for these. And I'm going to be switching up my figurative work for a bit. Not completely, just for a bit, to focus on getting a lot of figurative work done. If I can fit some emotion in there, maybe return to it at some point, I would be really happy. But my goal right now is to build up a bigger body of work quickly in the next 6 to 12 months. El Morris, please just shoot me a message. You can get to my website, use my contact form. If you're signed up to my newsletter, if you sign up to my newsletter, I'll get your email that way as well. So however you want to do it, and then wherever you post your work, you can, throw a link on here or somewhere else, and I'll check it out. Let's look at how bad my accuracy is on this. Let's do corrections. I love this part of the game. It's so awesome because you just learn so much, okay? Not only about how bad you do, because we tend to focus on that, right? Let me turn this down just a little bit. We tend to focus on what we did wrong, but you can see what you got right. For example, right away, I'm pretty darn close on the nose. Look at that nose placement. Woohoo! I did pretty good on that one. Yeah, I started to widen out this head a bit, but I didn't go far enough at all. Wow, yeah, I'm way off on the width of the head. I saw it within the eyes, like the eyes were too close together. It was like, wow, this is not working. I got lucky on the nose, basically. That was pure luck. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to help myself out a little bit. Let me bring the opacity back up. And is that okay? This is 100%. Here's what we're going to do. Let me turn that off. We're going to look at some very specific points. And this is what I'm going to put down. This is how you train yourself, guys. Everyone here. Not to, you don't trace, okay? But what you can do is you put on the training wheels, and obviously I need some training wheels here. And you say, okay, well here's, those points I was talking about right where the eyebrow kind of like goes straight and then goes to the side. So it goes straight and then bam. That's the corner of the head, the two corners of the head. Tear ducts, each side. Very important. Let's get that side of the ear, this side of the ear. I like looking for these little arrows as well. They really kind of tell you, like any angle like that makes little points that you can measure off of. The neck is there. This point is here. I like where the hair makes, it looks kind of like lips up there, the top of the lips. And then pupils. Let's do pupils. just helping myself out a little bit. This corner here, where that ends off of the screen. And that's good. All right, done. Hide it now. And then bring our drawing back. And we can bring the opacity down on here. And so I didn't say, okay, screw it. I suck at drawing. I'm just going to trace it now. No, what I did was, you know, I put the training wheels down a little bit. You know how when you were kids and you're trying to learn a bike, right? When you start out, you put these little training wheels on. Like here's, like you're looking at the bike straight on. That's the back tire, right? Here's the spoke on it. And you got these little training wheels that go down. Okay, on either side, it helps you keep vertical, right? And when you start out, those training wheels are on, you know, right at the bottom. But as you progress, as you get better riding your bike, what you can do is you can start lifting those training wheels up a bit. So they go up there. So you'll start kind of, you know, teetering back and forth a little bit more, right? But you're not going to fall over completely. So this is what we're doing. We're lifting the training wheels up. Actually, I'm putting them back down because I wasn't doing anything. So obviously I need a little bit more training. It's been a while since I've just been doing drawing. So instead of tracing it, I just did, you know, some points that are really going to help me out here. And let's start with the brow. That's always the easiest for me. Well, normally that's always the easiest for me. And we got our 2 points there, so that's going to go all the way across. Let me bring this down just a bit more in opacity. There we go. Okay. And then I have the point at the top of the hairline, and it's got an inch. I got the angle on that pretty good from before. It's just in the wrong place. Now the eyes. We got tear duct, tear duct. They're running in this kind of line as well. And you see what I was talking about earlier, where it matches the point of the brow. And then if I do the nose, you're going to see the same angle. And if I do the corners of the mouth, you're going to see, wow, a different angle. Look at that. Is that right? Did I put those in the right place? Oh, I think maybe like right above the line. Yeah, that's in the right place. Okay, our mouth has got a little bit different angle to it. And then the chin we'll put at that angle because it's bone. You know, the mouth moves around, so. But the bones don't. Bones stay. Those are those angles. Now, I need to change the corner of the head that way. This one this way. And then we got the side of the head flows off on this side. Oh, by the way, anybody wants to send me any kind of images of theirs to critique and, you know, ask particular questions. What are you trying to do? What do you need help with? Don't say, hey, what do you think of my work? That's too generalized. I don't know what you're going for there. So a little bit of specific information. Okay, that was my movement break, and it's also an hour in. So send me some information, definitely. Okay, before I stop the stream, sorry, I wish I got further on this drawing, but I obviously need to work on my drawing skills and to get better at it as I go along. And we're going to be doing that on the stream. I'll probably go back through the Marco Bucci course that I took. And if you look at my website, let me show you this real quick. because I did a bunch of drawings with that. Let me go back to my daily art log. Probably have to go back several months. Yeah, this is a really good course. You see this here, guys? No, I was doing, no, this was on my own. Okay, yeah. Let me go to, I want to pick out one that, where I really got a method rolling with his course. Yeah, let's do this one. So check this out. Wow, I wish I could make these images larger. I need to do that on my website. He had you go through and look at the skull and really take the skull and break it down into these, you know, more simple planes, and then see how that kind of fits within different references. And actually I got a 3D skull here, and I was doing it on a 3D skull to kind of match the bones with the head, because you get so many of these points where the bones touch the surface of the head, and you get so much more understanding of, you know, where the cheeks are, where the, you know, the brow is, and all this kind of stuff. So that was, I'll probably review that. That was actually a really good, great course to get to. And you can check it on my website as well. Like all the days that I went through that, I started, yeah, and he works it up like, you know, a lot of these images are directly from the course, some of them. See those planes of the head? Pretty fun stuff. Makes it really, he's a great teacher. I wish I was as good as him. The other thing I want to show you guys before I end is there's a really cool Reddit community that I was part of, well, I'm still part of, but I'm not active in. It's called, you know, r/Reddit gets drawn. Yeah, be careful on Reddit, guys. It's not the Wild West, but there's a lot of craziness out there. What I love about this, and it doesn't, you don't need to be on Reddit to do this, but the people submit their images of themselves, and they say, this is me, I want a portrait, and then there's all kinds of artists that share their drawings of these people, and they put them on like Imgur or whatever you, so here's a drawing of this guy. Oh, that looks like someone I know. Interesting. That's actually a really good drawing. Check out the drawing. Pretty nice of this guy. What's really cool about this is you're connecting with individuals a little bit closer, right? Maybe building a network as an artist. And you're also getting some drawing time in. And I'm influenced by this. So the portraits that I'm going to be doing lately, you know, right now, you know, for maybe the next few streams, doesn't have to be these portraits where I you know, pull from professionally done images. If anybody here wants to get a portrait done and that portrait be on the live stream, it doesn't have to be a picture of you. I would prefer it because you know, consent is there. Like you consent for your image to actually be on a live stream. Yeah, and it would kind of be fun because one of the things that you have to deal with when you're drawing a portrait, and here's what you get a lot of, is, hey, could you do a portrait of my grandpa? Because my grandpa passed away. And that's, you know, that's fantastic. So, you know, this looks like a photo that was, it's a photo of a photo that was taken outside. And, you know, it's the only picture maybe that they have of, you know, their grandpa. But it's a terrible photo. You know, it's really hard to work from. You know, this one's not too bad. We have definite light and shadow. We can see the form and everything. Most of the photos you get are just flat as heck. You know, light all over the place. Here's one with some light and shadow. And dealing with that, trying to deal with this, you'll get a really great understanding of form. This one's not too bad. We have one light source, and it goes from light to shadow, and you can see all the different planes of the head, that form of the head. We got some backlighting on this one. and that's just all flat, really difficult to understand. So, a lot of fun with these. So, there's my ask there for today. If you guys want a portrait done to be featured on the live stream, send me some images of yourself. And yes, it would be on the live stream. I'll make sure that you consent to that. Yeah, and if you're already sharing your images on social media, maybe you're totally cool with that. And if you're like, oh, hell no, that's fine. And if I do a painting of it, I tell you what, if you send me a portrait and it works out good digitally, and we ended up doing it in an oil painting, because most of these portraits will go into oil paintings. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. Oops. Can I Control Z? Thank you. I will send you the painting. You would only have to cover the cost of shipping, wherever you are in the world. So, yeah, there you go. chrisbevan.com/contact if you're interested in that. And on the end screen, you will see that URL. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for the great conversations today, the great questions. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you tomorrow.